Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Donnybrook. And don't forget, at the end of the program, we have something special. It's called Last Call because we have so many topics which we can't broach on a weekly basis because of time constraints. So now on the 9PBS YouTube channel, you'll find Last Call. So make sure you check that out. But first, let's get through the first 30 minutes of this program by introducing the panelists. The media veteran, Wendy Wiese, along with the Post-Dispatch's Bill McClellan. Also from the PD, Mr. Joe Holleman. And from the St. Louis American, we say hello and good evening to Alvin Reid. Alvin, I want to ask you about the latest in the difficulty this region seems to be spending $270 million. It actually was this week, 3 years ago, that we got the settlement. $270 million in the NFL settlement after we had that short litigation. So we're trying to figure out how to spend it. The president of the Board of Aldermen would like an endowment so we could live off the interest. And she sent an angry letter to Jason Hall, the head of the business group, Greater St. Louis, Inc., saying that his organization was going around the official process. And then he sent her an angry letter saying, no, he was participating quite well, and he thought that she had a sham process with a foregone conclusion. His words, not mine. But he also said the businesses would like to spend $100 million on downtown St. Louis if $100 million Rams dollars are spent in downtown St. Louis, along with $130 million for north and south neighborhoods. Your opinion, sir?
Okay. Well, I just thought it was humorous that, you know, Megan Green said, like, oh, okay, so now after all of this, you tell me that you got $100 million, okay? And it kind of like, it was one of those deals where I said, like, well, you know, I hate to, you know, say that, you know, you can buy your way into like being heard, but I'm listening to that 100 million. And if the businesses are really going to put forth 100 million, that makes me lean toward that downtown north project a little more, because that's 100 million that we didn't have. And if somebody's willing to step up, the businesses, and match that grant, then all of a sudden I'm listening a little bit more to what they have to say.
I think Jason Hall is a man with a plan. And I think that he does not want the exceedingly, grinding exceedingly fine, the wheels in City Hall slowing him down. And I guess we still have to arrange the actual meeting between Megan Green and Jason Hall.
They were on a panel together, I think, at some event talking about the future of St. Louis and like communication, like working together, and Mike McClellan is on it. Those two are on it, and one other person.
Right.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
I believe it's Friday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but you're right, though, about $100 million getting your attention, and it has a way of...
Well, you also have to look at the terrible job that SLDC has been doing, giving away the federal money. I mean, at first, I went along with you, Alvin, when you were saying that, well, the city and the county, nobody's spending their money too quickly, but that's a good thing. It's thoughtful. But now we're seeing the way that SLDC is just kind of throwing money around here and there. And I think at least take this Rams money and do something with it now, like, and get that extra $100 million and do it.
And I think I agree. Whatever the process was that Greater St. Louis said, okay, we'll pitch in $100 million. Well, you're on record now, so take the $100 million.
They had already gone
let's see it in writing.
Jones, had they not? And she said that the details were...
They claimed that they sent a letter or had a contact with the mayor, but the mayor apparently didn't talk to the Board of Aldermen or its president as far as the president's concerned. But there are no real strong, definite details on this $230 million plan. And what if the $100 million is really for in-kind services or net asset value of what might be $100 million?
Well, we're talking cash. Yeah. I mean, like, no, we're talking money. You know,
and let the process go.
Yeah.
He just said this. Okay, there's more than enough time for people to pin him down as to what he means.
But we also this week had a 36-inch water main break, and it affected water in 6 neighborhoods in North and South St. Louis. And then there was a boil order because they were afraid people were going to get sick. And I was wrong last week. I said there were 50 water main breaks last January. I looked it up. There were 60 in the city of St. Louis. What about the water mains? That's an urgent, critical issue, along with lead paint, much more important than streetscapes.
I still think there's money left for water mains.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what you do. We're not saying spend all $500 million.
They're talking a $400 million program.
Well, I think you could get it done for less than $400 million.
Well, Kurt Scooby, who just left as the water commissioner, says it was $200 million, and then others have said, no, it's really $400 million.
No, okay. I'm not sure on that. I mean, that just seems a little high to me.
And I've on this show, I have talked to water mains, street repairs, garbage pickup. And I agree, at least with the contention that the president of the Board of Aldermen has looked into and had a survey. I wrote several columns about that survey. And my point is if you have to have a survey to know what the people you represent want.
I think she just. Are you talking about the portal?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but you know, I think she just needed the sheer numbers to back up her contention.
I think it's also an easy way, like some people have put, to steer where you think the money should go.
Well, but
okay,
50,
but we're not alone in doing
because
that.
If you
cities
go
and towns do that all the time.
That doesn't make it right.
No.
You're the only one
you guys
who's
are all freaking out about. You're so enthused about $100 million. We've probably put in $10 billion into downtown St. Louis since I moved here in 1988. If you include the historic tax credits on Wash Ave and then the Arch refurbishment, Scott Trade Center, St. Louis Center, Union Station, Ballpark Village, $100 million is not what it used to be.
But Charlie, that's like saying, you know what? When the Mega Millions is only $30 million, I don't play. But when it's up to $300 million, oh yeah, then I buy a ticket.
It's not a lot of money.
No, but you're saying so you don't want it.
But what,
I'm saying fix the water mains and the lead pipe.
But you have more money to do that with if somebody throws in an extra $100 million.
But
That's exactly right.
What's so amazing, if you think about it, the fact that, I mean, most cities are grappling with not having money. We have money. We just can't agree on what to do with it. And in the meantime, you've got shingles falling off the roof. The basement's flooded. I mean, it is.
Okay.
And the money evaporates.
Yep.
I mean, you know, all of a sudden you don't have
But
it.
the costs
spend
involved get larger, right?
Wendy, let me ask you about downtowns. Michael Steinberg, a developer who has done work all around the world, has fixed his sites on Chesterfield. And in a interview with, I think it's a West News magazine,
West News.
He said that Chesterfield, after he puts in 100 million square feet of housing and a ton of retail, which will include underground parking, so the first street level will be retail shops, you know, maybe candy stores, who knows, whatever else. He is going to make Chesterfield the center of the region.
Before I get to Mr. Steinberg, I would like to say hello to our friend Donna McDonald. She's watching tonight. Oh, yeah. We hope you're doing well, Donna. I think that speaking of a man with a plan, this is something that has been in the works for a very long time, and it's fraught with irony when you consider that, you know, Chesterfield once upon a time was, you know, when people thought of Chesterfield, they thought of subdivisions and you know, commercial properties. They thought of office buildings. And so now Michael Steinberg is creating this downtown center. And I think that people would underestimate him at their peril, because what he has is he's got the Daniel Boone Bridge and he's got St. Charles County, which is growing so fast that they barely, you know, they don't know what to do. But I think if he, as promised, if he doesn't price out young people, I'm not sure how he's going to not price out young people. I think he's going to. I think he's going to do it. He's somebody to bet.
Well, you're not going to price out young people where, you know, a square foot of land costs $1 million. Okay, it'll never happen. I mean, unless he wants to try to make it St. Paul and St. Louis is still Minneapolis, but it'll never happen. Downtown is the hub where the ball team plays, where the hockey team plays, where the theaters are. That's where people want to be. Now, people want to go out and shop in Chesterfield. They might want to go to whatever that little place they have some concerts and whatnot. But St. Louis is always going to be the hub of this region. That's why we need to get St. Louis together.
Well, I believe we need to get St. Louis together, but I'm afraid of Steinberg. I think that his plans could work. I mean, I could see things drifting away. They've drifted away from the city to Clayton right now as far as businesses go.
But
and
Clayton's
I could
in
see
trouble.
those headquarters drifting further west.
And at 6 o'clock, Clayton is ghost town. Anybody hanging out in Clayton? People still want to.
I think what happens is Chesterfield is going to change because I remember actually we've been in St. Louis long enough to remember when it was called Gumbo Flats.
Gumbo Flats.
So, so it's been viewed as a bedroom community for now decades. I think that might change as Clayton is this business and residential center. I believe Chesterfield is upping its game, no doubt, and it's going to become a major city in St. Louis County. But as Alvin said, until they have people out there to see the Blues play hockey, the Cardinals play baseball, the City SC playing soccer, they have the symphonies. Once they get that, talk to me about being the hub.
Well, you know, the Symphony is in Grand Center. You mentioned there are theaters downtown. I think there's one. What, the Stiefel? Is there another one?
Well,
you know, I mean,
that's
the thing about St. Louis.
Enterprise.
Well, that's not. I guess that's
no, that's
it's
what
a
the major
venue.
concerts are.
But Grand Avenue has the Fox and Powell Hall, and that's really the problem with St. Louis. We got the Fortune 500 companies in Clayton, not downtown. We have the theaters in Grand Center, and we got the sports downtown. There is no nexus right now. There's no hub.
Well, that's still, the Grand Center's still in the city.
Yeah, but it's not downtown.
Well, I'm talking about the city of
Okay,
St. Louis.
I was referring to downtown.
No, I'm talking about the city. The city is, like I said, the city is going to be the hub.
Well,
of
how
the
can it be if it keeps losing 5,000 to 10,000 people every year?
I'm just telling.
And when 45,000 people keep coming down to see the Cardinals, or 18,000 come to see they will when they win. Charlie, this is, come on.
Have you seen the attendance?
You can call yourself the future hub of anything. You can go down to Catawissa, Missouri, and they can say we're going to be the future hub.
The Joe Holleman types used to make fun of St. Charles, and now St. Charles has about double the size of the city.
No, the Joe Hollemans never made fun of St. Charles. The Joe Hollemans live in the city, okay, and say that there's a lot of great cities growing and offering things.
Right.
Are they going to replace St. Louis as the hub? No.
Right. Overland Park, booming. I mean, just taking Overland Park outside of Kansas City. Kansas City is the hub of that region, no matter what Overland Park does.
Well, we'll see what happens to those Chiefs and Royals on another program. We don't have time for that today.
Right.
Okay, Alvin, I'm going to go back to you because there was an interview with, actually 2 interviews with billionaires from St. Louis with the St. Louis Business Journal. They were Jim McKelvey and Bob Clark. Bob Clark still has a big business presence here, but he divides his time between Chicago and St. Louis. Jim McKelvey divides his time between Florida and St. Louis. But both of them are young guys who did really well. And the question was, could they become like the next Dan Gilbert? Dan Gilbert is the guy behind Quicken Loans, now Rocket Mortgage, who he bought 130 buildings in Detroit, $6 billion. Who does that? He owns 130 buildings. He's transforming that area. Could someone like that do that in downtown St. Louis?
Well, somebody should do that in downtown St. Louis. And what I find just like, you know, kind of telltale is that the Business Journal asked some of our billionaires just to comment on it. And some basically said we have no comment, and some didn't even respond to the question. I don't get that. I mean, say yes, say no, say maybe so, say we'll look into it, say something. I mean, I don't understand that. And I also will say, like, listen, the next time any of you have anything to say about the city of St. Louis, I don't want to hear it because you had your chance to say yes or no. I'm going to throw some of my money to it. And can I also throw in, one of the things people forget about Detroit is when Dave Bing was the mayor, and I think the mayor after him, they cleared whole swaths of land up there. They decided that, look, near downtown.
Yeah.
They cleared it. I mean,
You've been consistent on that. For years, you've been saying that.
You know, I've been a reporter for so long, I hate to defend anybody refusing to comment on anything. However, if I were one of the billionaires and I was looking at the situation in St. Louis right now, and there's a mayoral election coming up.
That's right.
And I would think if I were honest, if I were to say, hey, I don't want to throw in $1 billion or a bunch of money in St. Louis right now under present leadership, everybody would be screaming. So I think that, you know, that the billionaires might stand back and say, I just don't want to comment.
Oh, but Bob Clark went further than that. He said, well, Bob Clark said in the interview that he's not going to work with St. Louis as long as Mayor Tashara Jones is still in power.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the one thing, a couple things that struck me about this. One, for better or worse, and I agree with Bill, I hate when people no comment because I'm a reporter, but it is one of the perks of being a billionaire is you get to not comment when you don't want to, where politicians don't have that right. The other thing that it said, first of all, I find it interesting that you find investment in downtown to be so crucial when it seemed like a couple of minutes ago, but now you want somebody to buy the buildings downtown and you need money for that. So apparently investing in your hub is a good move. No, the other thing is he said that it was a billionaire and a city leader who was showing a different way to do things. So it takes both of those things. And I think maybe the billionaires are not seeing city leadership that's up to the task.
Yeah, you don't get to be a billionaire by putting money into bad projects.
Right.
Right, or not knowing where the dust is going to settle after the mayoral election.
Well,
but billionaires don't like, I mean, who was the city official that said that that LHM, that they were going to have to come up with some additional money if they wanted to, you know.
That was Ms. Jones regarding Robert O'Loughlin and LHM.
Right, it was, and that, you can't tell people what to do with their
No, I'm not saying that, but they need to just say, I don't want to do it right now under the current atmosphere.
Say something.
I may disagree with what Bob Clark said about the mayor, but at least he said something. And why can't a billionaire, when they were trying to throw pennies together to buy the old fur center, or the fur exchange, like you said, like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna buy the fur exchange and I'm gonna make it into something. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. It doesn't matter what the politics are.
The thing I didn't like about the story, I think those billionaires have done a lot. They put a lot of jack into this town already. Everyone that's mentioned, whether it's Bob Clark, Jim McKelvey, David Stewart, whatever. Right. And you mentioned Dave Bing, and we lost one of the greats this week, Bob Love.
Yeah, Bob Love.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Let's move on to you, Joe. Alvin.
I didn't do it. Right.
I'm against whatever he did. I'm against
Freeman Bosely Jr., former mayor of the city of St. Louis, wants $2 million federal dollars to renovate his nightclub or bar in North St. Louis up on Grand. I think it's what, 3517?
Yeah, North Grand by Fairground Park.
Okay. He didn't get $2 million, but he was awarded $125,000, and he says that's not enough. He's got the Zodiac, the Grand Zodiac Lounge.
Grand Zodiac Lounge.
And he's got a kitchen that needs about $75,000 in work. He needs tuck painting for $40,000. Do you think that federal dollars should be spent on tuck pointing?
Well, I mean,
a bar in North St. Louis?
And that's the question about this entire program. And it sort of all hinges together. So to answer that question, the city's plan is to take $37 million of COVID relief money and distributed it to businesses on the north side, which historically have been neglected when it came to city leaders, mostly white, ignoring a mostly black neighborhood. So they're trying to kind of see what they can do to help. That's a noble, on paper, goal. The problem has been in the process that's being used, where apparently nobody seems to be happy with it. I originally contacted, there's been charges that political connections seem to have come into play with some of these awards, that they were the politically connected. So I find that the ex-mayor is getting $125,000, thought that he would have praise for the program. He's saying it's not enough, and that a lot of businesses that are getting money just started after the program was announced, which sounds a bit suspicious, as Darlene Green has pointed out. So he has problems with the programs, and he's getting $125,000. Now, I guess you ask for $2 million, you get $125,000. I honestly thought he would have some defense of the program, and he criticized it as well, the people who didn't get anything, and then SLDC then it gave the people who didn't get anything $12,500, which those people are now calling hush money, and they don't want it. So it's...
Right. There's been so much money given to businesses that aren't even businesses.
Right.
You know, the St. Louis River Museum, which turns out to be headquartered in a house in the Central West End, weeds overgrown, nobody knocking on the door, businesses that you can't even find. I thought that, you know, I thought of history when I heard about Freeman Bosely wanting more than $1 million, that, you know, Jordan Chambers, who was the Negro mayor, they called him back in the 50s and 60s, when the only two businesses a black entrepreneur could have were funeral businesses and nightclubs.
Well,
and
the newspaper.
To forget that. But you know, they're... Chambers had the People's Undertaking Company and the Club Riviera on Del Mar. And it was such a popular nightclub. Duke Ellington was Ellen Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole. And something like that really would help a city. I mean, I'm not sure that Bosley's the guy, but I just thought it's an intriguing idea. And I did not look askance at Bosley.
Not at all.
I didn't either.
No.
I didn't at all. Because Bill's right that if you were going to transform a large part of North St. Louis, you got to start with a small part of North St. Louis. And the Billionaires, like I said, if I had, maybe not $1 billion, but if I had $2 billion, I would make that a project where I said, like, okay, you know what? Like right there, you know, where he is, or something similar to that. I'd buy that block, and I'd say, like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this the safest block in North St. Louis, and we're going to have a restaurant, club, whatever. And when you are on this block, you will be safe, and you will have a good time. So it's starting small, you know, with one place, but it doesn't sound crazy to me.
And this is something that Bill has you've always pointed to Soulard. Remember how block by block by block.
House by house, really.
Exactly, house by house. Yeah. If it worked in Soulard, it can work there, and he's got skin in the game.
That's fine, but federal dollars, people in Maine should be paying for the tuck pointing of a bar in St. Louis. It's just not the role of the federal government.
This is COVID money, and you look at where...
You know what the shelf life of a bar is? What, about 18 months?
When you look at what SLDC is giving money to.
Right.
I mean,
my God.
They're just throwing money around anymore.
And Freeman Bosely is very connected. He's got a politically connected family. He's got a law degree from St. Louis University. For God's sakes, he was the mayor. Why does he need a handout?
Because he's a businessman. He owns a business.
So what?
Jordan Chambers was politically connected.
But he didn't get $125,000 federal dollars, and he didn't ask for $2 million.
I don't know what Jordan Chambers.
I'm sure there's some place they could meet in the middle that would enable former Mayor Bosley
and I think this argument that's going on right here is why there is questions about the program. Exactly how are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Which is why it's been put on hold to look at it, to say, did we make some mistakes? And I want to say that some really fine reporting from Austin Hughley and Jacob Barker, who have been going through this. There are questions, and even the people who got money have questions.
Amen. Bill McClellan, we have about 2 minutes or less to discuss Julian Alcala, I think his name is. He's a Florissant police officer who now has been charged by the feds. That's pretty serious. 1 felony count of obstructing justice, I think that was destroying evidence, and 20 misdemeanors because he's accused of taking photos of nude photos that he found on women's cell phones when he took their cell phones purportedly to look at their driver's insurance information or registration, something like that. So it's a bad thing that he allegedly did, but to some extent, why do women have nude photos of themselves on their phones?
Charlie, you did really well until you hit that butt to some extent. I mean, it's a terrible thing he did, and peeping Tom and abuse of authority and everything else, and he should never be a cop again. And if they want to put him in jail for a while, I think that's fine. And the last thing we should do is be questioning why the women had nude.
Well, why? Well, why?
Because they can.
Because they can. If a woman has a photograph of herself in her home, is there and a police officer comes in, is there not the presumption of security?
Right.
You know, that I'm secure with this person in my home, that he's not going to take
Okay, we've gone through this, folks. Eric Greitens got in trouble for nude photos.
Brett
the
Favre,
chief
Anthony
of staff
Weiner,
for Sam Page got in trouble. Don't take nude photos of yourself on your cell phones. Joe, it's the Roger Ebert theory. It's called an idiot plot. Everything would have been okay if the lead character hadn't acted like an idiot.
But don't you?
I don't know how
privacy.
to respond to you.
Yeah,
Charles.
The viewers
really
know,
don't.
and they know that I'm right.
No, the presumption of privacy.
No.
In the world today.
Okay, we're gonna go to the old mailbag, and we look forward to your letters next week on this and other topics. Okay, let's go to the old mailbag, shall we? I like the added content. Well, thank you, Frank Hackman of Clayton. And we received this photo and note from Amy Benoit and Jeff Smith from Dublin, who posed in front of the Donnybrook sign. Thank you, Jeff and Amy. You can write us care of 9PBS 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri 63108. Don't forget those emails, Donnybrook@9pbs.org. On social media, use hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line, 314-512-9094, and make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast source. Well, that's it for the first 30 minutes, but now go to the 9PBS YouTube channel when we'll discuss why is the county firing volunteers at the animal shelter in Olivet. That and other topics on Last Call. Hope you join us.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.